Broadly speaking, we have been to 4 countries already on the way here, though our first stop when we left Delhi was indeed in New York, so we could go and pay tribute at the 9/11 memorial and convey, if you like, our strong solidarity with victims of terrorism everywhere, since 9/11 accounted for people from so many different nationalities. We then went on to Guyana, where we met the government, legislators. In every place we met government, legislators, think tanks, and media. We went on from Guyana to Panama, from Panama to Colombia, from Colombia to Brazil, and here we are now with all of you. At the end of the Memorial Day recess, spending a day on Capitol Hill has been extremely rewarding because we were able to meet a number of congressmen and senators. And in fact, we've just come from a meeting with half a dozen senators who came up and said hello, all of them associated with either the Foreign Relations Committee or the Intelligence Committee. So broadly, what we are seeking to do in every country is to explain our version of events, our experience of the last few weeks, to seek the solidarity and understanding of those we meet and speak to. And I'm very pleased to say that so far, our batting average is over 100. In other words, every single person we have met so far has immediately not only condemned resolutely the terrorist attack upon India and expressed their outrage and their sympathy, but they have also explicitly endorsed India's right to defend itself against terrorism. And this kind of understanding has been most welcome. We've had broader conversations everywhere because India is not going to be defined by one particular incident. We are a country with great ambitions for ourselves, for our people. We are focused on our economic development and our growth. We are focused on technology, on pharmaceuticals, and the whole range of activities that have marked us out as a significant player to be reckoned with in the world. And we're very happy to continue doing all of that. In fact, for us, this terrorist episode was a distraction. It was a most unfortunate and even frustrating experience to have this inflicted upon us at a time when we were focusing on growth. In fact, in Kashmir, it's very striking. The previous summer, we'd seen more tourism and more tourists coming than Aspen, Colorado gets every year. And in the course of this year, the first few months of this year, there'd been a 100% increase on the corresponding months of last year. So Kashmir was booming. Ordinary Kashmiris are benefiting from vast numbers of tourists coming in, putting money into their hands and their pockets. It was a lovely time. And here's this innocent group of holidays, tourists on a dappled meadow in Kashmir, being murdered in cold blood by people coming and asking their religion and shooting them between the eyes. It really was a sickening outrage. And the nation rose as one to support whatever the government chose to do, and what the government chose to do in the end was what most of us would have wanted. I myself wrote an op-ed 2 days after Pahalgam, which was headlined, "Hit hard, hit smart." And that's exactly what the government did. It hit hard, but it hit smart. It started off making a very clear signal this is only about retribution for terrorism. That is, hit only the 9 bases of established, known terror organizations listed on the US State Department's terror designate list, listed on the United Nations Terrorism Sanctions Committee, the 1267 Committee's list of designated terrorists, and we only hit those. The government publicly announced and told the Pakistanis to, we have not hit any Pakistan government sites, we haven't hit any Pakistan civilian sites, we haven't hit any military sites either. We've just hit terrorist infrastructure. And as far as we're concerned, that's it, we're done. Pakistan chose to retaliate in the most indiscriminate and irresponsible fashion, shelling civilian areas, hitting Sikh Gurdwara, hitting the convent of the Carmelites of Mother Mary in Poonch, killing people in their homes, on the streets, 19 people killed, 59 hospitalized with grave injuries. This was obviously something we had to respond to, and every time Pakistan hit, we hit back. But each time, if you were to go back and look at the briefings the government gave each morning, the message was very clear. We are hitting them because they're hitting us. If they stop, we'll stop. And after 88 hours, the Pakistani Director General of Military Operations reached out to his Indian counterpart and said, let's call it off, and we called it off. We had no desire to persist with this war because, as I said, we have better things to do. It's just a tragic situation that has been needlessly inflicted upon us. And I say to all of you, when we seek understanding for what we've done, it's not in a warlike spirit. We're very conscious we are the heirs of Mahatma Gandhi, a legacy of ahimsa and non-violence. But we will also honor his advice to stay firm, to live without fear, to have the self-respect, never to bow down, never to surrender to this kind of terrorism. And we are going to continue. If they continue, we will continue. If they will let things alone, we will let things alone. Because we have, as I said, a very clear focus on our own development. I think I'll leave it there, not because I have no more to say, there's plenty to say, but I would rather respond to your questions, and my colleagues are also ready to add their words to these remarks of mine when you have questions for them.
All right.
The floor is yours.
We have questions that have been submitted in advance. Yeah. And if the audience has more, they can pass them forward as well.
Sure. You'll pass the questions forward.
Right.
Okay.
So one question that we've gotten from several members of the press is why the name Operation Sindoor?
Right.
If you could just briefly address that for those who are not familiar.
Right. Well, Operation Sindoor, actually, I thought was a brilliantly chosen name. The Sindoor, in case some Americans obviously don't know about this, is a vermilion mark that is applied to the center of the forehead of married women in the Hindu tradition. It's widely practiced. Some non-Hindus do it too, but more for decorative purposes. But strictly speaking, the sindoor is applied at the time of the marriage ceremony and is worn every day thereafter by married women. So we were very conscious that these brutal terrorists, who, by the way, shot men in front of their wives and children, but spared the women. And when the one wife screamed out, "Kill me too," she was told, "No, you go back and tell them what we've done." That was why the women were spared. It was a horrendous act. But that sindoor had essentially been wiped off the foreheads of 26 Indian women, or 26, I was going to say Hindu women, but one of them actually was a Christian. But the sindoor had been wiped off the rest by these terrorist actions. And so we wanted, first of all, to avenge that act of wiping off the sindoor. But secondly, it's no accident that the color of the sindoor is that bright vermilion red, which is not far from the color of blood. And in many ways, there is a Hindi expression that the Khoon ka badla Khoon, here Sindoor ka badla Khoon hoga, that is blood in response to what they've done to the sindoor.